You've been producing every Stones record since the 90s. And how did that hookup happen?
They signed to Virgin Records. And
okay.
the guys who were running Virgin, Jeff Aroff and Jordan Harris, were pushing them pretty hard to get a producer. And I saw the Stones for the first time in 1964. They played for 200 people at the hockey arena in Detroit. No one knew who they were.
Yeah.
And then they were on Ed Sullivan a couple weeks later, and then people
and then they
knew
blew
them.
up.
But I saw them with Brian Jones 3 times.
Oh,
and,
my God.
Saw the Gimme Shelter. I basically bought every album the day it came out up until I produced the album. And I had it before the day. But I was just a huge Stones fan.
Sure.
Always, right? So they sent me to New York. They were auditioning. Bill Wyman had just left the band, and they'd finished the Steel Wheels tour, and they were about to make a new record, and they were auditioning bass players as well. So I went to some guy's audition who didn't get the gig, and I'm sitting there in SIR with nobody in the room, and the Stones doing a greatest hit set. I couldn't believe it. And then they came over to talk to me, and Mick sat on one side of me, Keith sat on the other side, and they both started talking at the same time.
And who are you supposed to listen to?
It was like watching ping pong, man, because neither one of them yielded to the other guy for like maybe 3 minutes, which is an excruciatingly long time to be going back.
Yes.
But what I could make out was Mick talking about the things he'd like from a producer, and Keith telling me why they didn't need a producer. And finally they had to stop and take a breath, and Keith goes, "You sure you want to be the meat in this sandwich?" And I walked out of there
That's
thinking,
so Keith.
I'm never going to get this gig, but I got a great story to tell my grandchildren. Right?
Yeah.
And then Keith called me a week later, and he said, "Man, maybe I was a little harsh. There's something I could use your help with. I want Don Smith, who engineered his solo records.
Yeah.
I want him to do the Stones records, but Mick thinks he's my guy, and he wants an impartial guy." And I was already thinking of calling Don because I'd been working with Don.
Oh, Don's amazing.
Yeah, he was a brilliant engineer, man. Mm-hmm. And I thought Keith's solo records that's what the next Stones record should sound like. I didn't think it should be this big monolithic echoey thing, right? Mm-hmm. So I said, "All right, hang on." And I called Mick, and I said, "Look, Keith wants to use this guy." And Mick said, "Yeah, I don't want his guy. I don't want someone who's partisan coming between me and the console, so everything's got to be..." I said, "He's not Keith's guy. He's my guy. I've been working with him. I've worked with him more than Keith has." And Mick said, "All right, if you're telling me he's your guy and he'll be neutral, great." So I called Keith back 10 minutes later, said, "All right, we got down." And then I was hired. He said, "All right, I get it now." And so we made Voodoo Lounge in '93. That was the first record we did together.
Man, way to go.
Well, it was cool, man. First of all, they're the best band I ever heard in my life. I think they're the greatest band ever. They have these huge personalities. That's when I first became aware that a person's personality does not end at their skin, man. It's transcended. And I remember standing in a real big room. It was actually, at that time, it was called Cello One.
Yes.
It's now East-West. It was Ocean Way. It was Western before that, right? Western.
Yeah, I think so, yes.
I remember standing there with just Mick and Keith and Charlie, and I realized that this gigantic room was full with just these 3 guys and their personalities. I said, they may have normal stature, but they're like as big as the blow-up dolls that they used to have on the stage that were like 5 stories high. So they were just a great band, and they're terrific guys too, man.
Yeah.
They've always been very generous with me and very, very nice.
That was 3 rock stars, man.
Yeah. Yep.
How complicated in the studio was it when you have those kind of personalities? I mean, did you feel like you were walking on eggshells ever, or did you just keep it in mind and not blatantly ignore someone? Or
well, first of all, I will tell you that the dynamics in every band has the same DNA code.
Yes.
So the band I was in 6th grade that dissolved in fights and the mothers fighting and stuff like that.
God.
The mothers were actually worse than the guys in the band.
I love
it. The Stones didn't have that problem, but the dynamics are built in.
Yeah.
So if you've been in a band and you've experienced that, I think it comes from this. We're sort of made of competition. You know, we're made of cells that compete with other cells to survive, right? So we're all about that. So when you form a band and you're Nowheresville, man, you all unite in this fight to succeed.
Yes.
And if you actually pull it off, there's no one to beat anymore except you turn on each other. Because competition doesn't stop. It's very tough to. That's a genetic force that you have to contend with.
Right.
So if you understand that going in, that yes, there's this competition, but there's also a lot of love and camaraderie, and you're like guys who are, you know, like in World War II together, in the same platoon. Man, you save each other too. Yeah. So
And you're
it's
forever
a complex.
bonded.
Yeah, it's a myriad of feelings, and you just learn to deal with it. The conflict in the Stones is well documented.
Yeah.
But the rewarding moments far outnumbered any
The
conflict.
good outweighs the bad.
You know, it was an incredible experience to be sitting in a room watching them play. I got to play with them on a number of occasions, and it just that the first time I played bass with them, I realized, whoa, man, this is just this incredible, relaxed musical conversation, and whatever tensions ever existed don't exist when they're playing together.
Okay.
There's none of that. It's all jocular. They're like, everyone's throwing like softballs to each other. Yeah, man, boom, you know, and Charlie plays something on the hi-hat, and Keith would hear it and respond. They're so quick, man. They hear everything. And Keith would respond, and Mick would respond to that, and Ronnie play off of that, and then make Charlie play something else.
Oh, man.
So the conversation was fun and relaxed, and it's really addictive.
Yes.
You know, whenever Daryl Jones would come back, all right. It was always disappointing to have to step away from that.
Sure.
And I understood that they're not doing it for the bread, man. You
No.
know, when people say, well, why don't they retire? Don't they have enough money?
Because they love what they get to do.
That's who they are.
Yes.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
They live for that.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more I understand that.